find time to update those signs out there, Wayne? You need to update all of your signs.
Yeah,
15 Triple Crown.
We're going to change a few numbers on it. Maybe let's wait till the 8th of June and maybe we'll change it one time.
An update on how Seize the Gray is doing coming out of the Preakness Stakes.
Well, I was really surprised how well he rebounded, really. Even right after the race, standing in the winner's circle, I thought, my gosh, he's not even showing any stress or anything. And the next morning, you wouldn't have thought he even ran. So I was really, really pleased. Very seldom do you get one that bounces back that quickly, but he's been back to his old self, galloping well and everything. I feel good about him.
Wayne, you've talked about all the trainers that congratulated you after the Preakness win and what it meant to you. You've had a few days to think about that. You've had Blood Horse wrote a story about you and Baffert, having a good conversation the day after and everything. Have you been able to process this and and where does this stack up for your career?
Well, it really surprised me because, when you win one of that magnitude, usually somebody will stop you and shake hands. But in this particular race, I guess because of my age or whatever, the drought, or since I had the last one, I don't know what it was, but every one of those guys stepped up and genuinely congratulated me. And I thought that probably was the highlight of winning. Now, we've won the Preakness before, so I don't want to downplay the fact that it's very important, and I was excited to win it, and it was wonderful. But I think the highlight of the day, and I told Lori, my wife, I said, I think that the highlight was those guys stepping up and genuinely happy for me.
We're pretty certain when you won with Oxbow, you were the oldest guy to win a Triple Crown race, and now that's 11 years later.
I'm sure that statistic is out there, but it's not one that I would brag about. I mean, that's 11 years, and then if we get one now, I hope that there's another one or two in the offing for me. I hope that there wasn't the last one I'll ever win.
But you've outlasted your assistants as far as even how you still get on the pony. They haven't gotten in the pony in how many years? And just to judge from your first Triple Crown race win being in 1980 to 2024, that's astounding.
44 years, yeah. But there's a lot of pleasant memories in between in all those 44 years, and I've enjoyed that complete run in the Triple Crown series. It's always been a lot of fun for me. I thought it would be good in my career if I could win the Triple Crown, and we did, but it took two horses, so it'd be fun to do it with one. Maybe it's just as tough to do it with two. I'm not so sure that isn't an achievement in itself, because it means you've developed two horses on that spring, But anyhow, having said that, I enjoyed it immensely, and I'm looking forward to the Belmont.
Speaking of the Belmont, that was your last Triple Crown race to win. You won your first of what would be 3 in a row and 4 overall in 1994 with Thunder Gulch, right? Am I getting... No, Tabasco Cat.
Tabasco Cat, Thunder Gulch. Yeah,
and then Editor's Note.
And then Editor's Notes before that. There's 4 of them.
Yeah, Commendable.
Commendable, that's it.
Which might have been the most surprising of them all.
Yeah, Commendable was, just a high, was actually eligible for a low-level allowance race, but I thought that he fit the race, and I thought he could do some things in the race that some of the others couldn't do, and that would be dictate the pace and everything, and that's exactly what happened.
What about that run when you won 3 Belmonts in a row? Again, it had been your last one, and then when it came in threes, 94, 95, 96. Of course, that was part of your run where you'd won the 95 and 96 Derby. And
yeah, there were 6 Triple Crown races in a row, and then we ran second, I think, in the Belmont, and then won the 8th one. So we won 7 out of 8 in that run. And so that was significant. The 3 Belmonts in a row, all that was is it made Woody Stevens nervous.
Yeah.
He and I became really close friends, actually, late in his career. He would call me up and asked if he could, he said, let's have lunch up in the executive room, and we'd go up there. And of course, he was on the nebulizer, and he had mellowed a lot because he was so competitive that when we were running against each other, boy, he didn't pitch any slack. He wanted to beat you, but we became pretty good friends late in his career.
He was tough. He was tough on everybody. How
Oh,
about
yeah.
comparing Woody to Charlie Whittingham? Charlie Whittingham, I should say.
Oh, there was no comparison. Charlie Whittingham was pulling for me from day one. He and Lasberer, when I first come over, even from the quarter horses, those were the two guys that absolutely pulled for me. They were not threatened, I don't think, in any way. The younger guys, there was a certain amount of, a little bit of jealousy feeling and animosity because we started winning right away too. But Lasberer and Charlie, they were just fine. They knew we weren't going anywhere.
I want to talk a little Western here with you, Wayne. You did an interview a year ago with a cowboy poet from Texas, and on somewhere west of Wall Street. That would be Red Steagall.
Right.
And I know that was a special event for you, and I could tell when I watched the video that he really enjoyed it. Talk about that a little bit and what that meant to you.
Well, Red Steagall, in my opinion, is a Western treasure. He's a special guy. Not only his musical talent, but his knowledge, and historically he can pull up almost anything. And I've always been a fan of his. I've been a complete fan of his, and I was impressed that he would ask to do an interview with me, especially since I hadn't been in California or hadn't lived in Texas. He loves to get the Texans, but I hadn't lived in Texas for quite a while. I did live in Texas 6 years, however. But anyhow, we did that together, and I enjoyed it probably as much as he enjoyed doing it.
Do you recall what you were thinking when you were inducted into the Texas Cowboy Hall of Fame and what that meant to you?
Well, that was a big one for me. That one and the American Quarter Horse Association Hall of Fame, both of those two were very, very important and significant to me. And not to downplay the Thoroughbred Hall of Fame, but it's very difficult to get into the Quarter Horse Hall of Fame. You got to be unanimous to the committee, and so when that happened, I was extremely grateful and humbled. And then to come along later with the Texas one and so forth, they all mean a lot, but I like those Western ones.
Getting back to the Belmont, of the three races, how have you always approached the Belmont Stakes?
I think it's as important as the other three. The only difference is in many cases, you've had a horse that's had two tough races, and I think you got to have a horse that probably can manage the 1.5 miles. Now this year it's 1.25 miles. It changes the game a little bit, or quite a bit. But I always, if I skipped it, it was because I didn't think I had a horse that would go that far. And yet, a couple of my horses surprised me. Thunder Gulch and Tabasco Cat completely surprised me that they would go that far, let alone win. But I analyzed it every year, and I always thought it was important, but I wanted to be competitive if I entered it.
What about Editor's Note? He was a stakes winner at 2. I'm trying to think of his 3-year-old form, but I don't think he'd won a stake at 3 going into the Belmont.
He did either. He fit the Belmont, though. He was a big horse that you had to ride every step of the way. Renee Douglas, I think, violated the whip rule that we have now, and that one. So he fit the race, and he was the first one I ran that I thought really fit the race.
And then I was just asking you about commendable, but you thought that looking at the competition, you had the famous conversation with Pat Day about how to ride the race, and you felt going in he was a horse that could pull this off.
I thought that they were going to leave him alone. First of all, nobody was worried about him. I don't think anybody thought he belonged in there. And the second thing is, I think they were trainers, riders, both were probably in the mindset that they would leave him go and not bother with him. They'd run him down when they wanted to. And I told Pat when he approached the 3/8 pole to squeeze out a couple of links, and at the quarter pole to open up 4 or 5, and that would make Aptitude, which was the favorite. He'd have to run the last quarter in 23 seconds, and I didn't think he could do that, and he didn't do that.
Any similarities then between him and Seize the Gray in the Preakness? The idea that maybe some people thought 47 and change he was going to back up to them?
Especially on that track. I think everybody thought that the difference is that it was deeper than we thought it was, but he handled it very well. But the thing with Seize the Gray, he doesn't need that pace, not a bit. He will rate very kindly. If you watch the Pat Day Mile, he rated very kindly. And so if somebody wants to go into Belmont, we'll let him go.
So you wouldn't expect him, to go right to the front. So, I mean, obviously we don't know exactly who's in there and what the speed's going to look like, but what kind of trip are you expect? How do you see it shaping up?
Well, what we're going to do, it's very easy to answer that. What we're going to do is run our race. We're not worried about who wants to lead, who doesn't want to lead, who thinks they can come from back, whatever. This horse is very manageable, and we'll just run our race. That's all we'll do. And let the others do whatever they think they have to do to win.
You just made Jamie Torres' career. He hadn't won a graded stakes until the Pat Day Mile, and now he's a classic winner. What gave you the confidence to ride him?
He's a really intelligent, smart, articulate young man. He's too tall. He has to have a strict diet, obviously, to ride these things. But he's very manageable. He listened when I put him on other horses. Various other horses. I thought he rode them exactly like we wanted. And when we decided to go back with him here, he had already won on this horse, and I thought that of all the people that I could probably choose, and there were 5 or 6 that wanted to ride this horse in the Preakness, that made a phone call. Of all of them, I thought that he would be the most manageable from my standpoint, that I could get him to do what I wanted to do.
Now, you were talking to him earlier this morning, Wayne, so is the coach still coaching the jockey?
Yeah, I'm coaching him every day. I'm going to keep him right focused and right on the page.
Could you comment on his race in the Preakness, though? The ride he put on?
He rode just exactly like I told him to ride. I said, if you inherit the lead, take it, but don't try to get it. Just take it if it comes your way. Frankie Diatori decided he was having trouble with Baffert's horse, so he ended up cruising. And I said, if you are on the lead, I said, open up and get some cushion at the top of the stretch and let him take a run at you. But by then I said, he will be very competitive and you'll be okay.
We don't know yet the field, but you're going to have Chad Brown's horse, Sierra Leone, in there. And we don't know about the Derby winner. Maybe the Derby winner, maybe a stablemate, the filly. Just your thoughts about Seize the Gray going into the Belmont Stakes and what competition
well, here
might be
again,
waiting.
it goes back to what I previously said. He has bounced out of the Preakness so well that I'm looking forward to running into Belmont. He is going to, I think, approach the Belmont in top form. From a trainer standpoint, I think that his best race is coming up. I thought the Pat Day Mile was a turning point. I thought the Preakness was a step in the right direction. I think that he's going to go into Belmont in the form that I'd like to feel like I can win it.
So is it the horse just kind of getting it all together, figuring out now? Because he's been a good racehorse, but he had, I don't want to say inconsistencies, but he hadn't put together these wins like this.
Well, that's a combination of the trainer figuring it out with him and he responding.